Cash Landrum Incident in 1980. I know for a fact, I was involved in that. I know for a fact that that craft was piloted by Air Force pilots. It was based on a extraterrestrial craft that we'd had, and it was reverse engineered, but the propulsion system failed, as a malfunction in some manner, spurring out radioactivity.
So the story goes like this. It's 1980. Betty Cash and Vicky Landrum and Vicky's grandson Colby are driving home from a night out. You know, they had dinner, and I believe they went for bingo or something, and they had the day wrong. So they just got some dinner, and now they're on their way home. They're driving, and they see this like red fire coming out of something in the sky. And they're watching it, and then they start to see these helicopters. They see U.S. helicopters, and they're just like, what the hell is going on? They're looking at 23 helicopters just flying, looking like they're chasing this thing. Finally, the object starts to come right in front of them and starts to like land. So now they pull over the car, and Betty gets out of the car and starts kind of like looking around like, what is that thing? And she starts walking towards this like super bright light that's just lighting up the whole forest or whatever they're on. They're on like a remote area road where it's just completely lit up by this red light. So now Betty gets out of the car and she's like walking towards this thing, and she feels the heat, like the amount of heat that is coming off of this object that it's a few yards in front of her, makes her not get too close. So now she goes back to the car. When she goes to open the car door, the handle's super hot. So she uses her outfit to open the door, and she gets back in. Now, you know, everybody in the car is freaking out. Vicky has her grandson in the car. So the grandson's screaming in the back seat, and Vicky's like, you know, maybe it's a sign from God, like maybe it's Jesus in front of us. Like, they don't know what the fuck is going on. Everybody's freaked out, and now they try to turn the car on, and it won't turn on. So now they're dealing with that. Betty puts her hand on the dashboard, burns her hand. Okay, so everything is super hot. They finally get the car on, and they drive away. Now, it's late in the night. You know, Betty starts to look at her body, and she's starting to get all these blisters. She's starting to feel her head. Her hair is falling out. Okay, so now she's totally fucked up. There's no doctor available at the time because it's the middle of the night. So she gets admitted to the hospital within, you know, a day or a couple hours. They bring her right in. The hospital kept her there for an entire month. Okay, so there's a difference from someone saying, hey, I saw something in the sky, and actually going home and being sent to the hospital and them actually keeping you there for a month. Okay, so think about this. This actually happened, okay? Showed up to the hospital. They're like, holy shit, what the fuck is going on with you? Gotta keep you here, you know? So now she's at the hospital for the entire month, racking up all these medical bills. Now she's over $10,000 in debt. So basically, she reaches out to the Air Force and like saying, hey, like, this is what happened. You know, your helicopters were chasing this thing. No one ever said anything to any civilians to stay away from whatever the heck that thing was. You know, I need help paying for all these medical bills. Like, look what's happening to me. There's all these pictures of her pulling her hair out. It's all, she's losing her whole side of her head was bald, blisters all over her body. So basically, the Air Force is like, you know, hire an attorney, you know, knowing that hire an attorney. Tell the people in court that you think you saw a UFO and we're responsible for it. So 6 years goes by, and finally, you know, the court settles and tells Betty, like, hey, you can't prove that the Air Force were the helicopters. Like, where's your proof that those were a bunch of U.S. Helicopters? And how do you prove that it was a UFO? She had absolutely no proof. So she just basically racked up all this debt, you know, had all these medical issues. And 18 years after the incident, she passed away. And she suffered the rest of her life, you know, with these conditions. And, you know, the doctors and people believe that she was exposed to some type of radiation. And, you know, it changed her life forever.
Did you ever meet an Air Force pilot who piloted them?
Only the Cash Landrum. I actually interviewed him.
Oh, you did?
There were four of them. I mean, there was two the two pilots. There was a systems officer that was handling the equipment, and then there was I can't remember what the fourth person did. He was a navigator or what he was, and I interviewed them, and everything that could have gone wrong. It took off fine from Nevada and flew perfectly, but when it was going to an air base. I can't remember which air base it was. Some air base in Texas. I think it was Webb Air Force Base in Big Springs. I think it was. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Webb. And when they tried to slow it down, that's when the problems happened. And then they cut power, and so many things went wrong that they almost crashed. They called for rescue helicopters because they thought we would have crashed. So these helicopters came out, but they finally got it going again, and they landed at some place. Apparently it was just past where they spurred all this radiation on those two poor people, or 3 people, or however many it were. And then they flew it back to Nevada. It was pretty huge. It was one of those big ones. It was not a saucer shaped. It was more huge oval shape.
Was it man-made?
It was reverse engineered.
Reverse engineered.
Yeah. They trained 9 months before they ever flew it. And then they trained another, I can't remember how long, 4 or 5 months, flying it all around Nevada. The pilot told me they were flying, and everything seemed, they were flying at a high altitude, I can't remember what altitude it was, flying perfectly fine, no problems whatsoever, until they slowed down. He said, and then hell broke loose, and it was just a mess.
Do you know what kind of velocities this craft reached?
It could go Mach 1. And I that's all I was told. Maybe probably more than that, but just what he told me, or the pilot told me when I interviewed him, was he had it up to Mach 1.
It sounds like a hybrid craft. It had some aspects of the ET craft and others
Yeah.
of the conventional.
Yeah, the body and everything was ET. The only thing that was propulsion was it was us, with American or conventional, or actually a nuclear, and it just didn't work.
And there were 4 humans.
Yeah, four humans in it, and none of them suffered any radiation problems. It's just those poor people on the ground.
What about you, Kobe? What did you think of all this?
Well, it was scary. One of the things I never forget.
Was light bright?
Yeah, it was bright.
Have you ever seen anything that bright before?
No,
What would you say it looked like to you?
it looked like a diamond.
A diamond? Does it have any lights blinking on and off?
No,
Was it a white light?
no, it looked like fire.
It looked like fire? Were you scared at all?
I'll tell you what, scarier than you would ever get.
Was it making a big noise? Like a train
It sounded like
or
a
a jet?
jet engine.
You see the movie E.T.?
Mhm.
What'd you think about that?
It was a good show.
What'd you like about it?
I liked all of it.
So when you and your grandma were driving down here, you saw that bright light, were you afraid?
Well, not at first, but after we got on closer to it, I got scared.
Did it hurt you?
Well, it burned it. When I got home and when I went to sleep with my grandma, I had blisters on me. And, well, it wasn't that same night, but the next morning I had a bunch of blisters on my face. And my grandma doctored me.
Did you feel sick at all?
Yeah, I vomited a bunch.
And the helicopters were over it. What were they doing? Shining lights on it or anything?
No, I believe they were guarding it.
Did the helicopters have their lights on so you could see if they were Army or Air Force, or you could identify what they were?
You couldn't really tell, but they was double rotary like the government's helicopters.
Now those double rotary propellers are used by helicopters that haul around big things. They're transport carriers.
Not Germans.
Are you scared anymore?
Well, I hadn't had a nightmare about it.
What
for
kind of
about a year.
nightmares did you have about it?
Well, like it was.
Wow. I mean, what did you dream about that scared you?
About the object.
What was it doing to you?
It was about that night. It was just like we was out here again.
You don't dream about that anymore?
No. Well, I hadn't for a long time.
So you're not scared anymore?
Well, sometimes I think about it and I get scared.
What do your friends at school think?
Well, most of them don't believe me.
Does that bother you?
No, because I know it's true.